When you force yourself to keep going, when you choose discipline over comfort, when you dare to sit still in the moments your mind wants to run away, your inner world begins to realign itself. There are no fireworks, no applause, only a strange kind of silence, an empty space where you start to truly hear yourself. At first, everything seems chaotic. Thoughts crash into each other like a storm. Emotions collide like tireless waves. But then, day by day, something begins to change. Not the world itself, but the way you see the world. The wounds that once made you afraid start to soften. The memories that used to hold you back suddenly feel lighter. In the moments when you think you're at your weakest, a quiet strength begins to form the strength of awareness. You realize that mastering the mind isn't about stopping negative thoughts, but about standing on the shore and watching them drift by. You no longer fight against your emotions. You begin to live with them, understand them, and guide them. As you continue this journey, not for reward, not for praise, but simply because you refuse to surrender to yourself, you become the master of your destiny. You're no longer pulled around by fleeting emotions. Instead, you know when to pause, when to move, when to listen. That is the true victory. The victory in silence, the victory within. Why can some people remain calm in chaos while others fall apart over a single word, a glance, a small event? Were they born stronger? No. They simply learned what most of the world was never taught: how to observe, without reacting, how to master thoughts instead of being led by them. This is the beginning of a 30-day journey. A journey where you not only learn to master your mind, but also discover your truest self. This journey does not promise ease. It will demand patience, courage, and complete honesty with yourself. But the reward, if you reach the end, is freedom, the kind of freedom no one can give and no one can take away. Because when you master your mind, you master your life. And that's when everything begins to change. Many people believe that the ability to master the mind is an inborn gift, that some people are simply born calm and steady, while others are forever carried away by their emotions. They think that if they were lucky enough, talented enough, or had the right circumstances, they would find peace. But the truth lies on the opposite side. Mastering the mind is not an inheritance. It is a skill forged in silence, in the weakest hours, in the unseen moments when the world isn't watching. It doesn't come from a few minutes of reading or a short piece of advice online, but from facing yourself day after day without running, without blaming. If you've ever wondered why you get hurt so easily, why your mind is always noisy, why you can't stop thinking, the answer isn't that you're weak. It's that you were never taught how to listen to your mind. Society teaches us how to speak, how to react, how to win, but not how to observe. No one ever told us that before mastering the outer world, we must first master the world within. As a result, most people grow up like soldiers in a war, without an enemy, fighting their own thoughts, battling their own emotions instead of understanding them. Let me be clear, peace is not the absence of emotions. Peace is the ability to stay within your emotions without being consumed by them. Controlling the mind doesn't mean silencing every voice in your head, but choosing which voices deserve to be heard. A person who masters the mind isn't someone who never feels fear. It's someone who recognizes fear and moves forward even while it's still there. Look at the people you admire, those who stay calm in crisis and make wise decisions in chaos. They are no different from you. They too have worried, gotten angry, and wanted to give up. The only difference is that they stopped seeking peace outside and began building it within. They understand that emotions are not enemies, but signals. Fear is only an alarm bell, not a sentence. When you stop trying to push emotions away, they begin to settle. Like ocean waves, when you stop resisting, they naturally fade. The reason you haven't mastered your mind isn't because you lack discipline or strength. It's because you still believe emotions must be controlled by force. But the mind is not your enemy. It doesn't need to be conquered. It needs to be guided. When you treat your mind like a frightened friend, instead of a wild beast to be punished, you open a new door, the door of understanding and compassion. And that's where true strength begins. Think back to the times you were angry, afraid, or in despair. After the emotions passed, you probably regretted your reactions. But in those moments, you had no choice, because you were reacting, not choosing. And this is the key point. Those who master the mind don't merely react, they choose their reactions. Between stimulus and response, there is a pause. Within that pause lies your freedom. The freedom not to be pulled away. The freedom to decide. The freedom to be yourself. But that freedom doesn't come naturally. It must be trained. And training begins with awareness. Whenever you feel your mind stirring like waves, don't resist. Name the emotion. I'm angry. I'm scared. I'm worried. When you name it, you separate yourself from it. In that moment, you become the observer, no longer the victim. Many people think that observing without reacting is passive or weak. But the truth is the opposite. It's the highest expression of strength. Because while the outer world remains chaotic, you hold a steady center. The weak are led by emotions. The strong lead them. When you begin to understand that mastering the mind is not about fighting but understanding, not about avoiding but accepting, you'll experience a deep transformation. Emotions stop being enemies and become data. Fear stops being a barrier and becomes a map. And each time you move through a wave of emotion without being swept away, you build another layer of inner strength. No one is born with this ability. Even those who seem extraordinary began with chaos, but they chose not to stay there. They chose to train awareness like a mental muscle. Each day, they sit quietly observing themselves. They fail, repeat, and rise again. Over time, they cease to be victims of the mind and become its guide. You can do the same. So if you've ever thought you can't master your mind because you're too emotional, too sensitive, or too weak, know this. Those very qualities are the raw materials of mastery. Sensitivity is the ability to feel deeply, and when you learn to navigate it, it becomes your compass. Mastering the mind isn't about changing your nature, it's about refining your direction. This journey isn't about eliminating emotions, it's about realizing they don't control you. It's not about finding stillness outside, but building it within a stillness so steady that even as the world spins around you, you remain unmoved, standing in the power of self-mastery. There is a strange truth that few people ever realize. Everything you've achieved, lost, or experienced in this life began from a single place, your mind. Every action, every word, every decision, no matter how small, is born from the stream of thoughts within. That's why if you don't master your mind, you're letting your entire life be ruled by unconscious reactions. You're not truly living, you're merely reacting. And the difference between those who master life and those who are carried away by it lies in two words: mind mastery. Mastering the mind doesn't mean controlling every single thought. That's impossible. The mind was made to move, to create, to react, but you can guide it. You can choose which thoughts are allowed to take root and which ones must leave. Like a gardener tending to a mental garden, you can't stop the seeds from falling, but you can decide which ones to water. In the same way, you can't prevent negative thoughts from appearing, but you can choose not to feed them. Many people believe that freedom means doing whatever they want, but true freedom is the ability not to be controlled by what you don't want. When your mind becomes disciplined, you're no longer driven by fear, anger, comparison, or the need for approval. You act by choice, not by impulse. That is ultimate freedom, inner freedom. And here's a truth: most people overlook strength doesn't come from positive emotions, but from consistency. Anyone can feel powerful when things go well, but the truly strong are those who remain centered on their darkest days. In chaos, they don't escape, they navigate. They know the mind doesn't have to be still. It just needs to stay aligned. You can train your mind the same way you train a muscle. Each time you choose to observe, instead of react, you're strengthening it. Every time you pause to breathe, instead of lashing out in anger, you're adding another layer of inner strength. Every morning you sit in silence. Even for 5 minutes, you're reinforcing your control. Like a warrior practicing his sword in the dark, you may not see results right away, but every silent swing shapes your resilience. And here's another truth: the mind doesn't listen to your words, it listens to your actions. You can tell yourself you're strong, but if you always avoid difficulty, your mind will believe you're weak. You can say you're calm, but if you let emotions control your every response, your mind will believe you're not in control. Only repeated action can reprogram belief. Each time you act differently, you're rewriting the source code of your mind. But this requires consistency. No miracle happens overnight. No one wakes up tomorrow with a perfect mind. Like water carving stone, small repeated actions create lasting change. 1 minute of silence today, 2 minutes of awareness tomorrow, 5 minutes of meditation after a week. Step by step, you're building a new habit, the habit of awareness. Awareness is the light that illuminates the darkest corners of the mind. It doesn't change the truth, but it changes how you see the truth. When you become aware of anger, anger loses its grip. When you become aware of fear, fear shrinks. When you become aware of negative thoughts, you no longer merge with them. Awareness doesn't need to fight it, only needs to be present, and that presence alone is what makes the darkness fade. Imagine your mind as the sky and emotions as passing clouds. Those who don't understand try to chase the clouds away to see the blue sky. But those who master their mind know the sky was always there. They simply wait patiently for the clouds to pass. No rush, no force. Peace doesn't come from clearing the clouds. It comes from remembering the sky remains. That is the secret of mind mastery. You don't control the sky, you just stop believing you are the clouds. Once you understand this, you begin to separate yourself from emotions. You see clearly that I am sad is different from I am sadness. I am angry is different from I am anger. That small separation is freedom. A person can lose everything: a job, reputation, relationships. But if they keep their mind steady, they can rebuild it all. True strength doesn't lie in circumstances, but in the ability to navigate the mind through any circumstance. That's why some people rise from rock bottom, while others collapse from a single storm. Mind mastery is the foundation of all success, all peace, and every form of happiness humanity seeks. Without mental discipline, all knowledge and skill are just scattered stones. But when the mind is trained, everything else falls into place. When you master your mind, you master your emotions. When you master your emotions, you master your actions. And when you master your actions, you master your life. Everything begins and ends there, within your own mind. If there are days when you feel like you're losing to yourself, nights when you can't stop the thoughts racing through your mind, or moments when you wake up in the middle of the night just to ask, why can't my mind ever be still? Know that you are not alone. There is nothing wrong with you. You are not broken, weak, or lacking discipline. You are human, a being who can feel fear, love, and struggle amid the endless noise within. We are often taught that strength means not wavering, not shedding tears, not letting emotions take control. But that's not true. Emotions don't make you weak, denying them does. When you suppress fear, it doesn't disappear. It only changes form. When you bottle up anger, it doesn't fade. It simply finds another way out. No one can escape their own mind. The only way is to enter it, listen to it, and learn to speak its language with understanding. The mind is not your enemy. It's not against you. It's trying to protect you, sometimes clumsily. When you procrastinate, it's not because you're lazy. It's because your mind is trying to pull you away from a danger it imagines. When you worry, it's your mind raising an alarm, afraid of losing something important. When you fear failure, it's your mind keeping you in the comfort zone where it believes you'll hurt less. That's not weakness, it's survival. But the problem is, what once helped you survive now keeps you stuck. The fear that once saved you from pain now prevents you from growth. The doubt that once protected you from disappointment now stops you from moving forward. That's why understanding the mind isn't some philosophical game, it's the path back to freedom. You can't defeat an enemy you don't understand, and you can't understand your mind unless you listen to it. Think about the times you lost control when you said something you later regretted or acted out of anger and blamed yourself afterward. In that moment, you didn't choose. You reacted. Your mind, like a panicked friend, was just trying to scream to be heard. But instead of listening, you told it to shut up, and like every ignored child, it only screamed louder. Only when you stop, take a breath and say, "I understand. I hear you," does the noise begin to quiet down. That's why self-compassion is the foundation of all discipline. Discipline is not a whip. It's a gentle but steady hand on your shoulder that says, "We're still going to do this, even if today is hard." If you don't learn to forgive yourself, you'll stay trapped in the cycle of self-blame. And blame only makes the mind shrink, afraid and distrustful of you. But when you treat yourself with patience, the mind begins to open. It starts to trust that you're no longer a punisher but a guide. And that's when real change begins. One of the biggest mistakes people make when trying to control their mind is trying too hard. They turn stillness into a goal and then get angry at themselves for not achieving it. But stillness can't be forced. It doesn't come from effort, it comes from release. Like water, the tighter you try to grasp it, the faster it slips away. When you learn to sit quietly with your discomfort without trying to push it away, you teach your mind that there is nothing to fear inside. Gradually, the emotional waves calm down, leaving behind the still surface you've been searching for. You don't need to be perfect to master your mind. You just need to be honest about your fears, your fatigue, and the cracks you try to hide. In fact, it's through those cracks that the light enters. Only when you dare to face the darkness can you see the hidden light within yourself. Every journey of healing begins with a moment of honesty, and every form of strength is born from acknowledging your own vulnerability. So if today you can't focus, can't stay calm, or can't stop thinking, don't blame yourself. Just say, "That's okay. My mind is restless today, and I'll sit with it." No forcing, no judging. Because every time you dare to sit with your mind instead of running from it, you reclaim your power. You prove that you are the one who chooses, not the one being controlled. You don't need to be emotionless to be strong. You just need the courage to feel without being consumed by what you feel. You don't need to be positive all the time to be at peace. You only need the awareness to notice when you're drifting and gently bring yourself back. The mind is not a battlefield, it's a classroom. And you are not a warrior, you are a student learning to understand yourself. This journey isn't about turning into someone else. It's about returning to who you truly are. Still, strong, and deeply aware. And you'll come to realize that what you call controlling the mind is simply understanding yourself so deeply that nothing can shake your balance. When that happens, you no longer seek peace, you become peace. Imagine your mind as a vast ocean. On the surface, the waves rise and fall, loud, restless, ever-changing. Those waves are your emotions, your thoughts, your daily concerns, love and hate, fear and hope, expectation and disappointment. But deep beneath the surface lies stillness, a clear, calm depth where every movement slows down. Down there, you no longer hear the crashing of waves or see the spray of foam. There is only unconditional peace. Most people spend their entire lives floating on the surface, letting themselves be swept away by emotional waves, never diving deep enough to see that beneath it all, stillness has always been there. Each time you get angry, a wave rises. Each time you worry, another wave forms. Waves aren't bad, they're part of the sea. Emotions are the same, they're part of being human. The problem begins when you believe you are the wave, instead of realizing you are the ocean. When you identify yourself with every passing emotion, you lose sight of your vastness. But when you step back and observe, you start to see the waves are only temporary movements, while the ocean remains deep, still, and unchanging. Mastering the mind isn't about stopping the waves, it's about learning how to ride them. Those who don't understand try to fight the waves, trying not to be angry, not to worry, not to fear. But those who master the mind know that no one can win against the sea by fighting it. They learn to balance, to bend with the rhythm, to breathe with the waves. Because when you stop resisting, you begin to move with their flow, and that's when the waves stop being a threat. There are calm days at sea, and there are stormy ones. But beneath every surface water is still water. Likewise, whether you're happy or in pain, peace is always within you. It never disappears, it only gets covered by the temporary movement of emotion. If you're patient enough to sit, to listen, to feel, you'll discover that beneath every wave of anger lies a calm depth where you can breathe and rest. The mind also has its own seasons. Some days are bright, like sunrise. Others are dark, like a stormy night. But no day lasts forever. Every wave eventually dissolves. Every emotion eventually fades. No fear is permanent, and no pain is without transformation. You don't need to rush to chase them away, just let them pass. Like a surfer, you learn when to wait, when to lean, and when to let the wave lift you instead of knock you down. And then you realize the sea is not your enemy, it's your teacher. Every wave teaches you something. Rough waves teach you patience. Gentle waves teach you to listen. Unexpected waves teach you adaptability. Each one is a lesson in balance. Just like the mind, every emotion comes not to destroy you, but to teach you something. Anger teaches you about boundaries. Worry teaches you about your need for safety. Sadness teaches you about loss and the value of love. When you begin to listen instead of fear, you become a devoted student of life itself. At times, in the deepest silence, you'll notice something miraculous. The water clears on its own. The waves settle without your control. The same is true of the mind. When you stop trying to fix it or force it to be still, it naturally returns to balance. The nature of the mind is motion, but the essence of the human spirit is stillness. The more you try to control, the more imbalance you create. The more you let go, the more you find yourself. And perhaps you'll come to see this. Mastering the mind is not a battle, but a homecoming. A return to who you were before the world made you restless. A return to the deepest part of yourself where there is no fear, no competition, only pure presence. When you dive deep enough, you realize you never lost your peace. You only forgot it was always there. From now on, when emotions rise, don't ask, "How do I stop feeling sad?" Ask, "What is rising within me right now?" Don't ask, "How do I stop being afraid?" Ask, "What is this fear trying to protect?" And when you listen long enough, you'll find that within every wave there is a message, and beneath every noise there is a silence. Mastering the mind is not a journey upward, but a journey downward from the noisy surface to the still depths. And it is there in that quiet depth that you'll find the answer you've been searching for all along. You don't need to run from your emotions. You only need to learn how to swim in your own ocean. It's time to look at yourself differently. You are not someone trying to fight off negative thoughts or silence uncomfortable emotions. You are someone learning to become the master of your own mind, and that changes everything. For years you were taught to control your mind as if it were a wild beast that needed to be tamed. You were told to be strong to win, to never waver. But all that advice, however well-intentioned, made you lose something essential: your connection with your true self. When you treat the mind as something to conquer, you divide yourself in two, one part me, one part it. And when two parts are fighting, peace can never exist. Mastering the mind is not a battle between me and it. It is a process of unification where you stop forcing control and begin to harmonize. When you realize you are not the victim of your mind, but the awareness through which the mind experiences being human, everything shifts. You stop saying, "I must control my thoughts," and start saying, "I choose which thoughts lead me." You stop saying, "I must force myself to be calm," and start saying, "I am calm." The moment you recognize that you are the observer, the consciousness behind all thoughts, you are no longer controlled by them. You are not the one tossed by the waves. You are the one watching them flow. You are not the one afraid. You are the one who sees fear and smiles at it. When the old ego dissolves, a new being emerges, not perfect, but awake. The awakened person does not live in constant tension. They don't try to stay calm every minute. They simply are. When anger arises, they don't judge, they observe. When sadness appears, they don't resist, they listen. When the mind tries to escape, they smile and say, "I see you." Awareness itself, effortless and gentle, makes the waves dissolve. This awareness transforms your identity. Once you thought you had to fight yourself into control. Now you understand you are the source of peace itself. As you act like the master, the mind begins to trust you. It stops resisting and starts listening, not out of fear, but out of faith. To experience this shift, you must let go of the victim role. The voice saying, "I can't change my mind," is too strong. Each time you repeat that, you give your power to fear. And fear, once empowered, consumes everything. Those who master the mind don't say, "I can't." They say, "I'm learning." They don't say, "I'm weak." They say, "I'm growing stronger every day." The mind mirrors how you see yourself. If you see yourself as controlled, it will control you. If you see yourself as the guide, it will follow. Every morning before the world floods in, whisper, "I am the master of my mind. I don't chase emotions. I choose my response." It's not just an affirmation, it's a command that reminds your entire being who's in charge. The old ego will resist, whispering, "You can't. You've failed too many times." But that voice isn't you. It's an old recording of doubt. When it speaks, don't argue. Just say, "Thank you, but I choose differently," and keep walking. Each time you do, you reinforce your new identity, the master, not the victim. This identity isn't built by slogans. It's forged through repetition. Every time you meditate, instead of worry, you strengthen the new belief. Every time you respond calmly, instead of reacting with anger, you say to your mind, "This is who I am." Every time you return to practice after distraction, you prove, "I am consistent." Identity is not built by wishful thinking, but by repeated action. One day you won't need to remind yourself to master your mind, you'll simply do it. It will be as natural as breathing. Because you won't be practicing peace, you'll be peace. You won't be training discipline, you'll be discipline. The new identity won't require effort to maintain, because it will be who you are. And when that day comes, you'll see something profound. You never truly controlled your mind. You had only forgotten it. Now you've reclaimed it, not through force or fear, but through awareness and choice. You are not trying to control the mind. You are becoming it, conscious, deliberate, wise. And when you become it, you are no longer ruled by it. You and your mind move as one, where action comes from understanding, and peace is not a goal but your nature. There's a mistake most people make. When beginning the journey of mastering the mind, they try to change everything overnight. They want peace now, discipline now, silence now. But the mind doesn't work like a switch. It's like a muscle that must be trained day by day, moment by moment. And the only way to begin is to start so small that you cannot fail. You don't need to meditate for 30 minutes each morning. You just need 5 minutes to observe your breath. 5 minutes without touching your phone. 5 minutes to simply listen to your inner world without judgment. That's the starting point. Those small 5 minutes are the first bricks that build your fortress of peace. Choose one small, simple action and do it every day. No inspiration needed, no perfection, required only consistency. It could be writing down 3 things you're grateful for, taking a deep breath before replying to an email, or sitting still for 2 minutes before starting your day. Each small action is a gentle message to your mind, saying, "I'm here, I'm awake, I'm no longer driven by emotion." Don't underestimate small actions. One drop of water seems meaningless, but thousands of drops form a river. One small step may not take you far, but repeated daily, it will lead you somewhere you never imagined. The mind is trained by repetition, not intensity. Small, consistent steps will always beat big, impatient leaps. If you've been waiting until you're ready, remember, this readiness never comes before action, it comes after. Do what you can with the energy you have where you are. The first step doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to exist. One of the exercises I give my students is called the 5 minutes of stillness. Every morning before the world pulls you away, sit down, take a deep breath and whisper, "I don't need to fix anything, I just need to be here." For those 5 minutes, observe your thoughts, like watching clouds drift by. No pushing, no controlling, just seeing. You'll be surprised how your mind begins to calm, not because you forced it, but because you gave it space to breathe. Each time you sit in stillness, you're sending yourself a message, "I deserve peace." Even just 5 minutes trains your brain with a new reflex to pause instead of react. And over time, that reflex changes how you live. Another strategy you can try is the 2-minute rule. If there's something you've been avoiding, say to yourself, "I'll just do it for 2 minutes." Those 2 minutes are the doorway. Once you step through, you often keep going. That's how you overcome resistance, not by convincing yourself, but by beginning. The mind is like a child. It doesn't believe promises, it believes action. You can say 100 times, "I will change," but only when you sit down and do something, no matter how small, will your mind start to trust you. And once it trusts you, it cooperates. When it cooperates, everything becomes easier. Every great transformation begins with one small, steady act. No one reaches inner peace. In a single leap they arrive. One breath, 1 minute, one conscious step at a time. That's why you don't need to ask, "When will I master my mind?" You only need to ask, "What small thing can I do today to move closer?" And the miracle is this: when you repeat a small act long enough, it stops being an act, it becomes your nature. You no longer try to be calm, you simply are. You no longer remember to observe. You naturally observe. The practice becomes your being. That's the moment you cross from training to living. So begin today, not with a 10-step plan, not with grand promises, but with something small, one slow breath, one quiet minute, one simple conscious action. And repeat it day after day, until you no longer have to try, because by then it has become a part of you. Every time you begin something important, an invisible force appears. It has no shape and no clear voice, but you can feel it. It's that urge to delay, the quiet whisper saying, "Do it tomorrow." It's the sudden fatigue, the vague doubt, the impulse to reach for your phone just to escape for a few minutes. That force has a name: resistance, the mind's inner opposition. Resistance isn't a demon trying to destroy you. It's a defense mechanism of the mind. Every time you step outside your comfort zone, your mind senses danger. It doesn't distinguish between real and imagined threats. It only knows that something is changing, and to the mind, change equals risk. So it pulls you back, whispering reasons to stop. You're tired, you're not ready today, isn't the right day. They sound logical, and that's why you believe them. But if you want to master your mind, you must understand this. Resistance doesn't come to stop you, it comes to test you. It's the first guardian at the gate. Each time you push through it, you go deeper into yourself. No one escapes resistance, but the victors are those who walk through it, not those who never face it. The strongest resistance appears not while you're acting, but right before you begin, just like the darkest moment is before dawn. When you sit down to meditate, that's when the mind starts to shout. When you try to focus, that's when your phone rings. When you decide to change, that's when every reason to stay the same floods in. It's not the universe blocking you, it's your old identity afraid of losing control. Don't fight resistance. You can't defeat a wave by punching it. The only way is to walk into it through it. If you sit down and your mind screams, "I can't be still," say, "I only need to be still for 2 minutes." If you're afraid to start, say, "I'll just do this for 5 minutes." The moment you act even a little, you break resistance's power. Resistance is strongest when you're standing still, but it weakens the instant you move. Here's a key truth. Resistance exists only before action, never after. Once you begin, it dissolves. When you write the first sentence, take the first breath in meditation, or make the first move in exercise, you've already won. The problem is, most people stop at the door, never realizing it only takes a small push to open. Resistance never disappears completely. Every time you prepare to grow to a new level, it returns sharper, more subtle. At first it says, "Don't do it." Later it says, "Do it later." Or, "Make it perfect." Or, "You're not ready yet." It wears the mask of logic, of perfectionism, of analysis. But no matter how it disguises itself, it's always the same thing: fear of being hurt. The way to overcome resistance isn't by force, but by awareness. When you notice, this is resistance, speaking, not me, you create distance. You see clearly that you are the observer. And resistance is just a passing wave in the mind. Once you see it, it loses control over you. You smile, say, "I see you," and continue your work. Another effective strategy is to lower the threshold of starting. Don't set massive goals that terrify your mind. If you want to meditate, don't promise 20 minutes, promise 3. If you want to write, don't say, "I'll finish a chapter." Say, "I'll write 1 paragraph." The mind fears big, but it accepts small. And the miracle is, once you start, 3 minutes often become 10, and 1 paragraph becomes a page. Resistance will tell you that you must feel ready before acting. The truth is, you act to become ready. Motivation doesn't come before movement, it comes after. Strength doesn't appear first. It's built in motion. That's the paradox of growth that every master of the mind understands. Each time you overcome resistance, you're not just completing a small task, you're strengthening your belief in yourself. The belief that says, "I can start even when I don't feel like it." That belief is the first brick of discipline, and discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you want to be. There will be days when resistance wins. Some mornings you won't sit still, some days you won't focus, some moments you'll give in. That's okay. What matters isn't winning every day, but returning the next. Resistance only survives when you quit. When you keep coming back, it loses its grip. Consistency doesn't mean never falling, it means never staying down. Each time you return, you carve a message into your mind. I am someone who always comes back. One day, your mind will believe it so deeply that it will stop fighting you. Resistance is an inevitable part of the journey. No one escapes it, but only those who move through it discover what lies beyond freedom. When you learn to transcend resistance, you're not just mastering your mind, you're evolving your soul. One of the truths every master of the mind understands is this: you can't rely on motivation. Motivation comes and goes like the weather. Some days you feel unstoppable, other days you don't want to do anything. If you only act when you feel inspired, you'll never go far. But if you have a system, you'll keep moving forward slowly, steadily, even when you're tired or your mind screams to stop. A system is the silent teacher that keeps you aligned when emotions waver. Think of it as building a skeleton for your willpower. Motivation is the flame, but the system is the fireplace. Without the fireplace, the fire dies. Without structure, willpower breaks. A system turns action into habit and habit into instinct. Building a system for mastering your mind doesn't have to be complicated. You just need small, repeatable structures, what I call the mind rituals. Each day gives you 3 golden windows to train your mind: morning, midday, and night. Each one is a moment to reprogram your brain to remind it who's in charge. Morning: set an intention. When you wake up, before touching your phone, spend 3 minutes breathing deeply and say to yourself, "Today I choose peace." Write down one guiding thought for the day. Something simple like, "I control my reactions," or "Everything that happens is an opportunity to learn." This isn't just a sentence, it's a signal to your nervous system programming how you'll move through the day. Midday: pause and observe. The middle of the day is chaos: work, messages, pressure, noise. Amid all that, create a mental reset point. Pick a specific time, say 12:30, and set a gentle reminder. When it rings, stop for 2 minutes, close your eyes and observe your breath. You don't need to meditate deeply, just acknowledge, "I'm breathing, I'm here." This short pause interrupts your autopilot and brings you back to being the conscious driver. Evening: reset and release. Before bed, spend 5 minutes writing 3 things. What you're grateful for, what you learned, and what you're ready to let go of. Writing clears the mental clutter, so you don't carry negativity into sleep. Rest then becomes a reprogramming phase, where your brain reinforces the belief, "I can master myself." These 3 rituals may seem small, but practiced daily, they create deep transformation. They teach your mind, "I am the guide." And when your mind hears that message morning, noon, and night, it starts to believe and then act accordingly. But remember, a system only works when it's simple. The simpler it is, the easier it is to sustain. Don't make long to-do lists. Choose less, but do it consistently. Don't turn your system into a cage, make it a rhythm. When it becomes part of your natural flow, you no longer have to try. Another key to building an effective system is habit linking. The mind works best when new actions are attached to old ones. After making your morning coffee, sit for 1 minute and feel the aroma and your breath. After shutting down your computer, write 1 lesson you learned that day. After brushing your teeth, smile in the mirror and say, "I am confident." These small connections help new habits integrate into existing ones, reducing resistance in the brain. Understand, too, that your system isn't just to control behavior, it's to regulate your state. Actions flow from states. When you're tired, you give up. When you're calm, you choose wisely. The system helps you tune your inner state before taking action. That's why simple practices like breathing, journaling, or stillness work better than any external advice. They transform you from the inside out. Here's a golden rule: focus on the streak, not the result. Each day you show up, you extend the streak. Each day you skip, it breaks. The brain loves progress and consistency. When you see your streak grow, pride and momentum become your inner fuel. Don't chase perfection, just follow one rule: never miss 2 days in a row. A system isn't meant to trap you, it's meant to free you. It removes the daily question of, "Should I do this today?" It ends the inner conflict between want to and have to. When energy isn't wasted on decision-making, it's fully available for living. One day you'll look back and realize you no longer need motivation. You no longer need to push yourself. You simply operate naturally, effortlessly, like your heart beating, like your breath flowing. Peace becomes rhythm, not a goal. And at that point, you've not only mastered your mind, you've mastered your life. Your mind is a product of the environment you live in. No one can maintain peace in a space filled with noise, chaos, and constant negativity. Every day, the world floods you with thousands of signals, images, sounds, news, conversations, social media, work, pressure, all competing for one thing: your attention. And whatever captures your attention controls your life. If you want to master your mind, you must first master your environment. Environment isn't just where you live, It's the system of signals you create for yourself. If you live in a space that makes you tense, you'll think like a tense person. If you live in a space that makes you calm, you'll think like a calm person. That's not philosophy, it's biology. Your brain constantly responds to the space around you. Step into a cluttered room with dim light and noise everywhere. How do you feel? Uneasy, drained, closed off. Now imagine a bright, tidy room with only the things you truly need, where everything has its place. How do you feel? Lighter, freer, more open. That's the power of environment. Peace isn't just born within. It's nurtured by what surrounds you. The first step in designing your environment is to eliminate noise. Clear your living space, your desk, your phone, your to-do list. You don't need perfection, just reduce what you don't need. Every meaningless object is a small leak of attention. When you clear physical clutter, you clear mental clutter. When you throw away the old, you make room for new energy. The second step is to create positive signals. The brain operates through cues. If you keep a book beside your bed, you'll read. If you keep your phone there, you'll scroll. If you place a water bottle on your desk, you'll drink more. Don't rely on willpower. Design your space so that the right action becomes easier and the wrong one becomes harder. Hang a quote you love where you'll see it every day. Place a small mirror on your desk to remind you to observe yourself. Create an environment that whispers, "I am training my mind, not just living another day." The third step is to filter what you consume. The mind is fertile soil. If you plant garbage, garbage grows. If you plant wisdom, wisdom blooms. Pay attention to what you read, watch, and listen to. Every piece of content imprints your consciousness. If you consume too much negative news, don't be surprised when your emotions feel heavy. If you listen to stories of strength and growth, you'll start to feel that strength within you. Filtering information isn't avoidance, it's protecting your mental energy. The fourth step is to design your human environment. No one grows alone. Every person around you is an emotional ecosystem. Some people calm your mind while others cloud it. Stay close to those who remind you of your highest self, not those who drag you back to your old patterns. You don't need to cut people off, just choose consciously how much time and energy you give to each one. Another often overlooked factor is sound and light. Loud noise keeps your nervous system in defense mode, while dim light encourages procrastination. Open the curtains and let natural light in. Choose gentle sounds or silence whenever possible. This isn't just physical design, it's emotional design. A peaceful space nurtures a peaceful mind. Finally, design empty space. We often think peace comes from adding more time, more advice, more tools. But sometimes peace arrives when you remove less noise, fewer commitments, less pressure. Space is where the mind breathes. Don't fear stillness. Keep one small corner in your home just to sit quietly. No phone, no music, just you and your breath. That corner will become your sanctuary when the mind feels chaotic. When you design your environment, you're sending your mind a message. Peace is my priority. And the mind listens because it learns through experience, not words. Many people ask, how do I stay disciplined? The answer, let your environment do it for you. If you want focus, remove temptation. If you want calm, create quiet. Don't rely on willpower, rely on design. Once you master your environment, you'll realize you no longer have to strive for peace. Your surroundings will gently pull you into it. Just as water always flows toward the lowest path, the mind always flows toward the easiest one. Make the easy path the right one. And when you live in an environment designed to elevate you, not only will your mind transform, your entire life will follow. There comes a moment in life when you must stand before the mirror and admit no one is responsible for your emotions except you. Not your parents, not your partner, not your boss, not your circumstances. Only you, the one who responds to the world, are the true source of either peace or chaos within your mind. Those who don't understand this truth often live in the role of the victim, a victim of time, of work, of the past of other people. They say, I'm stressed because my boss is toxic. I'm unhappy because my partner doesn't understand me, or I can't meditate because life is too busy. But when you let your emotions depend on others, you hand them the key to your peace. And no matter how much they love you, they can't hold that key for you. Mastering your mind begins with reclaiming emotional responsibility. Every time you blame, you lose power. Every time you take responsibility, you take it back. Taking responsibility doesn't mean blaming yourself. It means acknowledging, I have the power to choose a different response. And in that choice, freedom is born. The world will never stop throwing challenges at you, people who hurt you, situations that anger you, failures that make you doubt yourself. You can't control what happens, but you can always control how you respond. That's the difference between those who get carried away and those who stay grounded. When you say, he made me angry, it wasn't him, it was you choosing anger, perhaps unconsciously, but still a choice. When you say, this situation exhausts me, it's not the situation, it's the lens through which you see it. Your mind reacts based on the filter you allow it to wear. Change the filter, and the world changes color. Think of the people you admire, those who remain calm even in chaos. Their lives aren't easier than yours. They just understand one rule. I am responsible for my reactions. When the world storms, they don't try to stop the rain. They rebuild the roof within their mind. They know that anger or peace doesn't depend on others, but on the state they choose for their mind. Start small. When someone treats you poorly, instead of reacting instantly, whisper to yourself, I can choose a different reaction. When you make a mistake, instead of self-blame, say, I take responsibility. What can I learn from this? Each time you do this, you're sending a signal to your mind that you are in control, and over time your mind begins to believe it. True responsibility isn't just accepting consequences, it's consciously creating causes. Ordinary people wait for inspiration to act. Masters act to create inspiration. Ordinary people wait for stillness to meditate. Masters meditate to find stillness. When you shift from reacting to life to creating your experience, you move from being a victim to being a creator. Don't misunderstand. Responsibility isn't self-punishment, it's maturity. It's when you can look at failure and say, this is the lesson I choose to learn, instead of, this is something bad that happened to me. Because once you realize you can create emotions, you can choose peace. And when you can choose peace, no one can take it away from you. Pay attention to how you speak to yourself. Every word is a form of programming. When you say, I can't control my mind, you reinforce that belief. Replace it with, I'm learning to guide my mind. When you say, I can't stand that person, replace it with, I'm learning to keep my energy steady around that person. The way you speak changes the way you think, and the way you think changes the way you live. A simple technique to practice inner responsibility is the pause rule. Whenever emotions flare, don't react immediately. Pause, take 3 deep breaths, and ask, will this reaction help me become who I want to be? That single question can shift your entire emotional state. It reminds you that you always have the power to choose again. Remember, blaming is easy but weakens you. Taking responsibility is harder but strengthens you. Maturity isn't about never making mistakes. It's about refusing to blame. Every time you say, I am responsible, you take one more step toward mastering your mind. One day you'll realize that everything, whether painful or beautiful, is an opportunity to strengthen your spirit. When you take responsibility, you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, What is this here to teach me? That question turns pain into wisdom and failure into fuel. And then you'll feel a quiet kind of peace, not because life got easier, but because you stopped giving your power away. When you take full responsibility for your inner world, the outer world no longer controls you. That is true freedom. No one masters the mind without having fallen. No one builds mental discipline without moments of weakness. No one reaches peace without walking through chaos. Failure is not the end of the journey, it's a required part of growth. Every time you fall, life gives you a mirror to see the weak points in your mind that still need strengthening. Failure doesn't make you weak, it reveals where you must become stronger. Like light shining through a crack, it doesn't destroy the wall, it shows you where to mend it. When you learn to view failure with awareness instead of fear, you stop seeing it as an enemy and start recognizing it as a teacher. Many people spend their whole lives avoiding failure. They avoid risk, avoid challenges, avoid opportunities, all because they fear the feeling of losing. But in doing so, they also avoid truly knowing themselves. You cannot master your mind inside your comfort zone. True peace is only found when you can step into chaos and remain present. Think back to the last time you failed a project, a relationship, a promise to yourself. You felt hurt, ashamed, disappointed. The mind rushes to conclusions. I'm not good enough. I can't do it. But if you pause and look deeper, you'll see that failure is only saying one thing: there's something here to learn. Every failure is a lesson in disguise. When you face it with honesty, you uncover a gem within the ashes. Maybe patience. You never had humility. You forgot, or awareness that it's time to change direction. Each lesson, no matter how small, fuels your evolution. There's an unbreakable rule: if you fear failure, you'll never be free. That fear makes you shrink. You stop trying, stop loving, stop beginning. You live safely, but confined. And the paradox is, the more you fear failure, the more it finds you, because the energy you resist repeats until the lesson is learned. When you face it, the lesson ends. When you run it, returns stronger. Failure itself doesn't hurt you, your interpretation of it does. If you see it as proof of inadequacy, you'll contract. If you see it as a signal of growth, you'll expand. The same event, two perspectives, two entirely different outcomes. Masters of the mind don't ask, "Why did I fail?" They ask, "What am I being taught here?" One effective way to turn failure into fuel is to rewrite its story. Whenever you make a mistake, write down three things: what happened, how you felt, and what good could come from it. Writing helps the mind move from emotional loops into clarity. You stop being a victim of the story and become its author. And when you're the author, you hold the power. Notice this: the greatest people don't avoid failure, they use it as fuel. An athlete who loses a competition doesn't dwell in self-pity, they return to training. An artist rejected by galleries doesn't quit, they create again. A conscious person doesn't fear mistakes. They see them as opportunities to refine themselves. Failure doesn't burn them, it warms them. Your mind needs to be forged in adversity. Like steel, it needs fire to harden. Each time you face failure and rise again, you build mental resilience. Every time you endure shame, fear, or disappointment, yet stand tall, you teach your mind, "I am stronger than this pain." And you know what happens when you do that long enough. You become calmer, not because life is easier, but because you've stopped fearing difficulty. You may still fail, but you no longer fear it. You know you'll learn, grow, and return. Fear dissolves, and freedom appears. Failure is only terrifying when you identify with the outcome. But when you see failure as part of the process, it becomes a sign of evolution. The one who never fails is the one who never tries. And the one who never tries is already dead while still alive. From now on, see failure as a measure not of your worth, but of your courage. Every time you fail, you prove that you dared to try. And that act of courage is the true victory. One day you'll look back at every fall and smile, because you'll realize that without them you would never have become who you are. Failure doesn't block your strength, it forges it. It's the fire that melts away doubt and fear, revealing the unshakable core within you. Every scar, every crack, every stumble is proof that you have fought, learned, and evolved. And when you see failure as an essential part of growth, you stop asking, "How can I avoid failure?" and start asking, "How can I use it?" When you shift from fearing failure to harnessing it, the game changes. You stop protecting yourself from pain and start transforming pain into power. And when you can do that, you become unstoppable, not because you always win, but because you always rise. No one likes the process. Humans love results. They want success fast, peace instantly, mastery of the mind within days. But self-mastery is never a shortcut. It is a journey of patience, of repeating simple things until they become second nature, of doing the same actions over and over until they become your breath. Only those who learn to love the process, not just the outcome, can go all the way. When you begin the journey of training your mind, there will be days when it feels like nothing is changing. You'll still lose focus, still get angry, still feel anxious. You'll wonder, am I even making progress? The answer is yes, because it's the consistency through those ordinary days that shapes you. Like growing a tree, you don't see the roots expanding, but they are silently, patiently, millimeter by millimeter each day. Most people quit, not because they lack talent, but because they lack patience to move through boredom. They think that when there are no visible results, they're failing. But the silence of the process is where the transformation happens. Every time you repeat a small action, you're rewiring your brain, creating new neural pathways. Each time you observe, instead of reacting, each time you return after distraction, you lay another brick in the foundation of your strength. The mind doesn't change through bursts of inspiration, it changes through repetition. Inspiration is a lightning flash, but habit is the steady current. Only when you learn to love the dull days do you reach true transformation, because it's in those dull days that strength is forged. Think of a musician mastering their instrument. They don't create masterpieces on stage, but in thousands of unseen hours of practice, bleeding fingers, repeated scales, endless solitude. That's where art is born. Likewise, every silent morning you meditate, every night you journal, instead of scrolling every time you get back up after losing focus. That's where your mind becomes unshakable. To love the process means to love your imperfections. In moments of being lost, you learn to return. In moments of disappointment, you learn patience. In days that seem stagnant, you're actually deepening awareness. The process isn't a straight line, it's a spiral. Each time you circle back, you return at a higher level, even if it feels the same. Remember, this repetition doesn't kill growth, it creates it. Every time you repeat, you reinforce the belief, "I am consistent." Over time, that belief becomes your nature. One day you'll realize you no longer need to practice discipline, because discipline has become your rhythm of life. Learning to love the process also means letting go of the need for fast results. You can't force the mind to evolve on the ego's schedule. You can't say, "I've meditated for a week, why am I not at peace yet?" Peace is not a reward, it's a consequence of consistency. Just as water smooths stone through steady flow, there's no magic moment, only persistence. One of the greatest lessons in mastering the mind is this: everything valuable takes time. You can't rush maturity any more than you can rush a season of growth. The seed must stay in the soil long enough before it can sprout. Your mind is the same. It needs time to trust that you're serious, to believe in the new stability you're building. When you truly fall in love with the process, every day becomes meaningful. There are no good or bad days, only days with lessons. A peaceful day is a reward. A chaotic day is a teacher. Both are necessary. Without darkness, light cannot exist. Without challenge, stability cannot form. One way to nurture your love for the process is to celebrate small steps. Instead of waiting for perfection to feel proud, Be proud every time you return after a setback. Thank yourself for choosing to meditate even for 5 minutes. Be grateful that you keep trying even when no one sees. When you learn to appreciate small steps, the journey becomes lighter and you gain the strength to go farther. Finally, remember this: mastering your mind isn't a destination, it's a way of living. There will never be a day when you are completely done. The mind is an ocean, always in motion. Your job isn't to stop the waves, but to learn how to ride them. And when you love the ride, you no longer fear the waves. One day you'll sit in the middle of life's chaos, take a deep breath, and realize, I've come so far. Not because you've achieved something grand, but because you've learned to love every step of the way. That is the mark of true mastery, not someone who seeks peace, but someone who lives in it. There will be days when you want to give up, not once, but many times. Days when you wake up and don't want to meditate, don't want to read, don't want to try anymore. Days when it all feels pointless, when you think you've gone far enough, when you start believing maybe you weren't born to be this strong. All those thoughts are traps of the old mind. And in that exact moment, the moment you want to quit, that's when the real journey begins. The line between those who change their lives and those who remain stuck isn't talent. It's the reflex not to quit. It's not that they never get tired. They've just learned to move forward even when exhausted. It's not that they never feel fear. They've just learned to act despite it. When everything inside you screams to stop, but you take one more step anyway, that's when you are rewiring your nervous system, redefining what impossible means. The reflex to not quit isn't natural, it's trained. Every time you move through the moment you want to stop, you carve a command into your subconscious: I don't quit. If you repeat it long enough, your body, mind, and spirit start to believe it. One day, when a challenge appears, you won't need motivation anymore. You'll just act, because not quitting has become automatic. Remember, the mind doesn't want you to grow, it wants you to stay safe. When you begin to change, it will resist with logical excuses. I need a break. It's not the right time. Maybe this isn't the right path. But don't listen. Deep down, you know that isn't truth speaking. It's fear. The fear that if you keep going, you'll become someone your old mind can no longer control. Every time you feel like stopping, remember every transformation tests you right before it arrives. Before light appears, there is always the darkest hour. Before the mind becomes still, chaos intensifies. If you can withstand that moment, if you walk through it without turning back, you step into a new level of awareness. The reflex not to quit doesn't come from moments of victory, but from the times you've fallen and returned anyway. Every time you fail and still choose to begin again, you're telling your mind, I keep going no matter what. That action is stronger than any motivational quote. It's living proof that you're driven by commitment, not emotion. There's a simple rule I always keep: never quit on a bad day. Never make the decision to stop when you're tired, scared, or doubtful. Wait until tomorrow. Wait until your head is clear and your heart is calm. If tomorrow you still want to stop, then reconsider. But most of the time, you'll want to keep going because the part of you that wanted to quit yesterday was only a temporary reaction, not your true self. One powerful way to build the no-quit reflex is to reconnect with your first reason. When you're tired, discouraged, or doubtful, remind yourself why you started: not for someone else, not to prove anything, but because you wanted freedom. Freedom from fear, from old limits, from the version of you that used to hold back. When you reconnect with that reason, your energy returns, because goals can get tiring, but purpose never does. And when you truly don't feel like continuing, shrink the goal. Don't aim to finish the whole journey, just take one small step. When your mind screams, I can't, say, just 5 more minutes. That's how you outsmart resistance. 5 minutes later, you'll have already crossed the hardest threshold. No superpower needed, just don't stop. Strong people aren't those who never fall. They're those who've built the reflex to stand back up. They don't wait for motivation to return, they return to find motivation. Every time you rise after falling, you teach your mind that falling doesn't mean it's over. Gradually, it stops fearing the fall. Imagine climbing a mountain. Each step hurts, the air gets thinner. Your body feels heavy. You want to turn back because it seems endless. But if you do, you'll never know that the summit was only a few meters away. Life works the same way. Many people stop right before the miracle happens. They don't lack ability, only one more step. And you, the one hearing this, don't be one of them. Remember that true strength isn't found in moments of excitement, but in moments of exhaustion when you stay consistent anyway. That's the moment that defines you. Every time you don't quit, even for one more day, you're rewriting your story. A story no longer controlled by fear or fatigue, but by faith and discipline. One day you'll look back and realize that what set you apart wasn't how many times you won, but how many times you refused to stop. Because in the end, the winner is not the strongest one, it's the one who doesn't quit. There comes a moment in life when you realize that everything you once feared, ran from, or resisted was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to awaken you. Every pain that once made you think you couldn't go on was only a doorway leading you to a strength you never knew you had. You've walked through doubt, through resistance, through exhaustion, through moments when standing again felt impossible. And now you're here, stronger, deeper, quieter. Not because life suddenly became easy, but because you've learned how to walk through the storm while keeping peace within. You are no longer who you once were. The old you needed validation, the new you seeks truth. The old you craved control, the new you chooses surrender. The old you feared failure, the new you understands that failure is simply part of the process. And in that maturity you've found what most of the world is still searching for: a free mind. But this journey isn't just for you. Once you learn to master your mind, your task is to share that light, not through words, but through the way you live. Every time you choose peace over anger, listening over judgment, love over fear, you inspire someone you may never meet. Remember, this true greatness isn't measured by how much you achieve, but by how much light you leave behind. Every awakened soul is a torch that brightens the world a little more. And you, the one who stood up through doubt, who learned to love the process instead of chasing the result, you are one of those torches. From now on, keep walking. No rush, no need to prove anything. You already understand that everything has its own rhythm. You only need to be present. When you are present, the world changes. When you are peaceful, you help others find peace. When you grow, you open the path for those who come after. And if one day you forget your strength, remember this: you have fallen, but you stood up. You have been afraid, but you kept walking. You have doubted, but you did not stop. That is your true legacy, not a story of perfection.